All right, delighted to say that John West Féile Ambassador Lee Keegan joins us on the line. John West, sponsors of the GA's annual Féile na Nóg and the Féile na Nail as well. Competition is one of the biggest underage sporting events in Europe, and now with a regional dimension, with a third tier to the nationwide competition. Lee, how are you getting on?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks, and thanks, Millie, for jumping on the line. You're obviously involved with the John West as a Féile Ambassador, and important. You feel it's important, I guess, to give back to kids, give back to the next generation coming through.
I definitely, excuse me. I suppose I've been very lucky with my career where I've had good people, and I suppose people I looked up to within the club, and even from a county perspective that I know represented Féile, but then went on to a higher level, playing with Mayo and at high level Westport. So when they give me advice and when I hear to play it at Féile level, I want to get involved from that point of view. Now my Féile career was very short lived, unfortunately. One game, one loss, in out. That was it, unfortunately. So, but no, that's not the point. I suppose the point of Féile is like it is such it's a massive competition. It gets teams from all around the country together. I can't wait this year to be involved and go to the competition as well, the regional and the national, and see the standard again. I know our own club is always highly involved in it. So yeah, I'm again delighted to see our club do well, and I love to give a bit of advice to the kids that do come in and do it. But the best bit I always say is just enjoy it. Even as adults, I say if you're not enjoying sport, then there's no point being involved.
Yeah, I was going to ask actually, because I'm sure there's plenty of volunteer coaches around the country who would love to know what that bit of advice, outside of the enjoy yourself bit, which is obviously the important thing at the end of the day, what other sort of thing, like you're not getting into too complex of sort of tactical discussions, whatever, but what sorts of bits and nuggets can you give the kids?
Like from my own perspective is like I just, when I was that age, I just want to be involved in groups from a social point of view. And it got me out of my comfort zone in certain areas. Got to meet some new friends, and then I got to compete. I got to compete at certain levels, and to be honest, it grew me up a little bit when I was younger. So seeing different guys come from different counties and trying to mark them guys and see where I'm at standard-wise and what I need to learn and what I need to do. And I suppose from a coaching aspect, then when we went back trained, then especially underage, we would try and work on some of those little things, be it a tackling skill or a kicking, hand passing. I know they're very simple things, but if they notice that I wasn't doing it one week, then obviously I need to be working on it the next week. So that's something that the coach used to drill into me, is that work on the simple things as much as you can, replicate again in the match the week after, be it under 14, 16, minor or 21, it didn't matter what it was. And write down then, not even write down, but just reflect on then, did it go well for you? If not, then what can I do to get a little bit better and train next week? And I was very lucky that I had guys, even from a young age, that were drilling that into me. But at the same time, allowing me to enjoy my football and not, I suppose, keep me in a prison that I have to do X, Y, and Z, or else it's going to be the end of the world. It was just, if you do these few things, you might get a little bit better at it. If not, we'll keep working them until you are not perfect, but at a really high level. And again, there's guys in the club, and I know volunteers all over the country are probably doing the exact same thing. And that's why Féile is so successful and why he's getting recognised worldwide. Were
you always sort of one of the top performers coming through as a kid?
Oh God, no, not a football. No.
Why not?
No. I was probably one of the lower ranked ones when it comes to underage football. So I was, but
up to what stage?
Probably up to nearly 20s. To be honest, I was probably too more involved with the likes of rugby and soccer probably when I was underage. To be honest, been from a town like Westport, it is very sport dominant, and I was lucky that I could have a flavour for each sport. So I was predominantly involved with rugby, like say Westport and Connacht underage, up to under 19s, 20s then, and kind of just made the decision that I wanted to play Gaelic, to be honest. I don't know why, but I'm happy I did.
What position were you in the rugby?
Full back.
Right. And was that an option? Like, were you thinking about, was there an option there, a call to be made at some point?
There was, yeah. I suppose I was trying to cling on to as many sports I could for as long as I could. And that's another bit of advice for anyone as well, is play as much as you can while you can, because when you have to make a decision, that's kind of it, to be honest. And I knew when I was getting to that kind of 18, 19, 20-year-old that I was going to have to make a decision, and had a chat with a couple of coaches at under 20 Mayo. They were interested in bringing me in, and they said that they seen a good bit of potential, and I got a bit excited from that and just drove it on from that, to be honest.
They were right. It's like 15 years later, they were bang on. Did you consider like a professional rugby career?
I never really looked probably further than under 20s at the time, because I was still kind of involved with it. Looking at now, reflecting now, I'm kind of happy I didn't, to be honest. I don't know if even looking at the standard of some of the players that went after me, it's just kind of ridiculous, and the size of them as well. I'm only a small nugget of a thing when I look at some of the guys that are playing rugby at the moment. But no, I'm really happy with my decision, to be honest. I've met some great people along the way with GPA. Now I'm still an avid rugby supporter. I love watching rugby. Some of the hits do make me sore watching it, but I'm happy to be watching from the telly side rather than on the pitch side.
What at 32 then, when we're about, what are we, 30-40% into the season, whatever it is, how's the body feeling now versus how it might have been a few years ago? Still fresh? Or?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I suppose with the condensed season, we're trying to get ourselves in kind of a peak shape. I suppose games are coming thick and fast, and I suppose Division 1 has been well documented at the moment that the standard is insanely high, and we're at the final stage of our league games now on Sunday. So in terms of body, feeling really good. Relatively fresh considering. Took a bit of time after last year to get myself right again. Spend time with the family, a couple of kids at home now, so that puts things into perspective pretty fast. So once I got that time at home, I was ready to kind of rock again. And when James gave me the call, then come February time, I got excited and jumped straight back in and playing week in, week out. So I think as a player and for myself, I suppose I've seen the two sides from before, where we used to have a 10-week break and then train and play a game, where it's game week in, week out now. I'm definitely an avid fan of that. I know players are as well, getting as much as they can. It just feels a bit different that our season's going to be over in July. That's something we're trying to figure out, and we're already nearly finished March. So you're right, like season's coming and going in the blink of an eye, and like we're talking about our last league game, round of games this Sunday. It's madness already. So it just shows you it's waiting for no man. So it's about trying to get yourself right quickly, and any little injury at all is going to put you back, because again, with the shorter season, you don't want to be chasing your tail already.
Like maybe it's too hard to tell because of that change of season and this far out, but like, is that format of, listen, I'm just going to go and take a bit of a breather, refresh myself, spend that family time and come back. We've agreed that now as a format, and let's just roll with that for whatever number of years are left. I
suppose I'm older, so I get that option. maybe a mid-20s guy might be different, but yeah, like, I mean, I suppose I'm on year 12 now, or 11, 12 with Mayo, so like I know James very well. So again, it's been smart. I know my own body as well. I said I'm running long enough now to realise that setting myself crazy standards in December, January versus maybe 5 years ago, it's not expectation really, or it's not reality for myself. It's about trying to get myself right for an early start and building into the year, and that's gone pretty well so far. I'm happy where I'm at in terms of my shape and how I feel, and enjoying the group environment. We've quite a relatively new squad again, a lot of young guys coming through, so they're really challenging us, kind of older guys as well, to perform in training, and I think it's been pretty clear that James is picking guys on form within training. We've had a lot of changes throughout the games in the league, so yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about James. There's a lot of good flexibility that I could bring James up. I just want to take an extra couple of weeks here before I come back into that environment again. And I suppose that's the trust we have between manager and players at the moment.
It's funny to hear you talk about like the players, the on-form players in training, because from the outside looking in, it looks like he's got some sort of a master plan of experimentation going on. And I'm going to take a look at a few players, but you're saying it's more to do with lads in training putting their hands up.
Absolutely. Like, guys need, well, if they're not training well, they're not going to get picked. So you're not going to pick a guy that's not performing in training and put him in a high performance game that Sunday or Saturday and expect him to do it. Guys need to be shown well in Tuesday or Thursday or Wednesday or Friday, whatever day it is. And for them to do that, if they're competing really well during the weeks and they're putting their hand up, then yes, they're going to get picked. If they're not, then that's just the reality of high level sport. And us as players know that very well, and James knows that himself. So I don't think it's an experimental thing. I think it's just he wants to see how guys adapt to that high level environment of playing top teams week in, week out. And Joe, we all have to get our chance some stage as well. Like when I was that age, if I didn't get a chance, I wouldn't be here either. So it's about exposing them, getting them ready. And like the championship's only 3 weeks away this Sunday, so it's really important to get as many guys playing at that level as possible. What
we're talking about all the new faces coming in, but the recapture, is that the right phrase? I don't know exactly how to phrase it. The Oisin Mullin not going to Australia bit. I wondered, like, how big a boost was that internally? Was that because he's the sort of player that I think no matter what squad in the country he's in, like the loss of him, you're going to feel that it could be the difference between getting over the line and not. Was it a big boost internally?
Well, he's a beautiful man as well, so it's just a
that helps.
Listen, like Oisin's one of those kind of generational players, and it is well documented how good he is. And yes, when we did see him come back in the change room, I suppose it gave us massive energy, because obviously he sees himself as, or sees us as a group, I suppose, to trust the group that we can go far again. And he obviously thought about that and sat down and set out his standards and his targets already. So he obviously has that in his head. And for us to see him come back in at the start of the year was a huge boost for us, because again, he's one of our top guys there, one of our best players. And I suppose the way he plays the game, it's very attractive to see. He's just so good at football. Like, I love having him in the squad. I just think he brings a bundle of energy. And just for a guy of a 21-year-old, he's already one of our leaders already, and it shows the type of guy he is within the group already. So yeah, it was a huge boost to see him come back in this year. What
sort of form does that leadership take? Is it more than just the quality of his play?
Yeah, but even the way he trains, it's a train during the week. He does take a night off. He comes to train really hard. He's bringing lads with him then in terms of conditioning games, or like his skill level is extremely high, and he's challenging himself as best he can to get better and better and better. So you see a guy at that age and he's doing that himself, you know, he's in a good spot already. And it doesn't take a lot of management for a guy to see that qualities. And again, to see him come back in and train the way he is training again, it's really powerful for us as a group to see that.
It's wild in an overall sense, like how you mentioned, obviously going into the last round of league games, but how even everything feels now. Like, it obviously the Dubs coming back to the field a bit at the demise, then sort of suddenly everybody realizes, oh, maybe it's not so bad after all, after looking at the last few weeks. But it still does feel like there's at least five and maybe a couple more like genuine All-Ireland contenders. Does it feel that way? Sorry, does it feel any different in that way for you, Lee, over the last few years, in the sense of that evenness?
To a degree, I suppose. Like, I suppose I just focus on ourselves. We always we're going to compete. We're always looking at a high level ourselves, and I suppose as a group, that's the target you want to get to, is the All-Ireland final day, and obviously the outcome is to win it. And essentially, we haven't done that yet. So, yeah, I mean, people can say it's an open championship, but it can be very deceptive to read league form into championship. And I suppose with the shorter kind of gap this year, it's even harder to get a read on. I know even just playing the Division 1 this year itself, say teams are obviously setting out their stall pretty early this year, that they're taking the league extremely serious. And you've seen that the way, as you said, MA games are for grabs this weekend in Division 1 alone. And across every division, there's something for grabs nearly in every division. So I think teams see this as an opportunity now as to get a really good performance on Sunday. And I'm just talking about ourselves now here. Like, Sunday's a massive game for us against Kildare. As essentially it's a do or die situation from now on for the rest of the season. Get a result on Sunday, we're into a league final. The league final, then you're straight into championship. So it's you're right. There is a lot of teams looking this year as an opportunity, but again, we do every year, and it sounds boring, but if we don't look after ourselves, if we start looking externally, then we're only caught in ourselves. It's what we're doing now and what's important now. And for us, although championship 3 weeks in line, we know exactly what we have to do against Kildare. Any team that shoots 24 points the week before is a serious outfit. So we're looking at that challenge ourselves, and we're going to take that very seriously for Sunday and try and get to a league final.
There must have been some, with everything that was going on with Dublin internally, was there any chat about it? Was it because most of the country was looking at it, like they've obviously explained it away, you know, we're in transition, and there's probably a lot in that. But I think on a very one-dimensional level, most of the other country was like everybody scratching their heads almost to try and figure out what was going on. Was there much chat about it internally? Don't give me we weren't talking about it stuff. There must have been some conversation about it.
We don't, and that's the thing. Like if you get caught up in the whole rigmarole of people talking about demise and transition, and then you're just essentially taken away from what you're doing good yourself. And I mean, yes, it's a very easy conversation to have, but like if we start talking about other teams, then we're not worrying about ourselves at all, and that would be a concern. And thankfully, it hasn't been. And like, I'd be telling you live, I said we did talk. We actually don't have time to talk about it because we're so busy training ourselves. And I said that when I off training, I don't particularly talk about a lot of sport anyway. So, and like, I suppose the big thing is that, like, because games are coming week in, week out, there is no time to talk about Dublin or Kerry, or it's we're actually either going to be playing them or we have another game coming. So To answer your question, that's the answer I'm giving you.
Are you going to give me the same fob off when I ask you about the Philly comments?
No, Lily, stop. No.
They must have been discussed. Were they not at any level?
No. Like the discussions is literally who we're playing next, and that's genuinely the gospel truth.
Can I ask you? Do you know? Because the first thing I saw when I saw the comment, probably had the same reaction everybody else. Like, oh Jesus, here we go! Like just lobbing this grenade into an already pretty tense dynamic between those two teams. But like when you stand back from it, what did he have a point in what he was saying in terms of Mayo being the point being that like Mayo were more obsessed with being seen to stand up for themselves than sticking to the agreed plan?
You're putting me in the spot now, aren't you?
I am. Did he have a point?
If I said I didn't read it, would I be lying?
There's no way those comments haven't some way or another. Somebody's dropped them into a WhatsApp group somewhere along the line.
Listen, like you can't exactly pinpoint every moment or every minute from games. Like, I mean, the two teams have macho moments themselves, so it'd be silly for me to say they didn't. To say we got caught up in it, I don't know. Like that's here to say. Like, I mean, we went out to perform to the best of our ability in them games. So I mean, to go into a game thinking if I'm going to be as macho I can, we knew that's never going to win a game. Like there are high pressure games. Of course, you're going to get caught up with some of the moments in that game. But to say that was solely the reason we lost, I can't agree with that fully, because like we went out to perform to the best ability. We were 100% confident we were going to win those games. That's not a word of lie. And we just didn't. Dublin just were better than us than days. But to say that it was a match thing, no. We had to have a game plan to play one of the best teams that we've ever come across. And it nearly worked, but it didn't quite come over. And that's the way we looked at the game. It was just try and get a good game plan that was going to beat Dublin in them games.
So it's on the record. It hasn't been discussed, is what you're saying.
It has. Well, it's definitely not discussed this year, or going forward. No.
Okay. What the reason I was sort of asking about it was like the aggressiveness is a big part of your game, right? Like Andy Moran has written about it in his book. That was it a horrible player? Is that the horrible player to play against? Am I right? Is that the
quote? Yeah.
What? So like that line of aggression between like there's a negative and a positive to that, but you've always seemed to be able to walk the positive side of the aggressive play.
Yeah, but I suppose people have to realize we're playing a contact sport. So there has to be a level of aggression brought into these games. And that's the same with the league this year as well. You have to have a form of aggression, or else essentially you're saying to your man, well, you can walk all over me for the full 70 minutes and kick what you want, do what you want. And it is, I'm not saying like to cross the line, but you have to be on the edge sometimes. And most top teams like ourselves do play on the edge sometimes. And that's the way most high-level sports are across every court. And a team that tells you otherwise, and they're probably lying. You have to have that level of aggression going into games, or else you're going to get walked over. And the way Gaelic is at the moment, particularly around that middle third, it's a bit of a war zone, and teams are going to physically dominate other teams. And that's no different from a Mayo Dublin game to a Kerry Tyrone game, or even this weekend we're playing Kildare. That's just the way the nature of the game has gone.
Are you looking around you last weekend going, what is Aidan O'Shea doing back here? He's basically fulfilling every position now on the pitch, and the latest is in the half back line. What's the natural progression of him, do you think, there's obviously so much, he's one of those players that occupies so much debate around the summertime as to how he's going, what his best position is and all that sort of stuff. I don't know, is he likely to spend more time in the back line going forward, or he's
looking for the goalie jersey next?
Yeah, it's not far off.
His last remaining position, like, so. To be honest, like in the type of guy Aidan is, he's a very good structural kind of guy. He can read the game really well, and he's a very good organizer and leader. So, and he's a big guy to get the ball on. So it would make sense to give him a go there and see how it goes. I'd love to see more of it, to be honest. He gives a good bit of protection throughout the game against Tyrone, and the way Tyrone set up as well, I suppose. Drop a lot of numbers back, leave a lot of space one side. So Aidan was doing really well in reading that. So yeah, he's not short of getting that goalie position after all this either. So
is he basically just like a third midfielder that like he's going to operate in that sort of space? We're all obsessed with this, what position is he in? And actually it's just sort of a third midfielder anyway. Essentially,
yeah. And like Aidan's a very good ball player. So I mean, it's no brainer to play him around the middle third. And in the size he is and the presence he is, like Aidan's tackling is probably one of the best in the country. So I mean, to get Aidan in around that area is crucial for us getting turnovers and moving the ball quick in transition. So it's a role that I know he loved playing in. So I'm sure it's going to be reviewed and looked at again going forward.
Yeah, it could appear anywhere. Nobody knows. Can I ask you before we let you away? Was it very disappointing? And I sort of facetiously mentioned at the top that it's great to speak with you because we haven't had a huge amount of chance to speak with players or coaches over the last few weeks. Was it very frustrating how all that played out, Lee, in terms of the mileage and the expenses, and that the GPA obviously felt it had come to a point where a ban was required?
Like, I mean, it's like most of the topics. If you want to get wrapped around it and caught up in it, then, like, I mean, you can discuss it till the cows come home. I mean, from me as a player and us as a playing group, like, I suppose, I don't know how people have time sometimes to be talking how many times that we train a week. We just want to go train and be ready for any game that comes up. So, I mean, it's obviously it's a hot topic at the moment. But I'm pretty sure, like, so they're going to have to come to some resolution at some stage. I mean, it's a pretty simple fix if they want to do it. And Joe, like, I mean, like, there's probably no need to drag it on longer than it should be. So, I mean, it's just one of those things. Like, it's coming pretty hot, and it's the hot topic of every kind of after league game at the moment, post league game. We should be talking about the games and not these kind of situations, I suppose. Did
you agree with the ban, or did you think, because there was a good point made that actually putting the players front and center to say we're not happy with this would have been as effective as a ban?
I think ban's a strong word. Like, I mean, like,
a recommendation not to speak.
Recommendation, like, yeah, like, I mean, probably even better. Like, I think by saying a ban to an adult, it's like telling a baby not to have milk. Like, Joe, it's like, you want to do it then, like, so, like, Joe. So, like, I mean, I don't know. I'm like, it's looking from the outside, it can be a quick fix. I don't see why it needs to be dragged out longer than it should be. I think for myself as a player, I just want to go out and play games. Like, again, we're talking about a short season. We don't want to be talking about these matters that are, like, I suppose, taken away from what's been a brilliant Division 1 campaign so far for all teams and all divisions across. So, I mean, it's kind of, to me, it's kind of pointless. Yeah.
Look, that's fair enough. Is this the year? Is this the year it happens?
We'll see how Sunday goes first.
Yeah. Plenty of football to be played. Listen, absolute pleasure chatting with you over the last 20 minutes or so. John West, Ambassador, and you can check out all those details. We give out full details from our social channels as well. Lee Keegan, thanks a million.
Thanks a million, guys. Cheers. Appreciate it. Thank you.